So welcome to our 10 o'clock PL on using groups in Schoology. So we're excited to begin kind of talking about some different features in Schoology. We've been over a lot of the basics, but we would encourage you as we are going through today, if you have questions or comments or things you want us to re-show, please utilize the chat, and whoever is not presenting will try to address those questions. So that's why it's sometimes helpful just to make sure if you want to private message us, just know that it might not be seen until we're done talking, and then so it might be better to use the full group message feature. So just a reminder for those of you who don't know us, I'm Shannon Quigley, and with me today is Sarah Scheip, and we are district technology coordinators, and we tend to work more heavily with the elementary side. Not that we never see you middle or high school folks like we do today. So just wanted to put that out there. We have a couple links on our main page here, and we will share this slide deck with you before the end of the session. But we have a link to our teacher resource page. If you haven't visited there before, this link will just take you to that site. And it just has a lot of how-to videos. If you're looking for some sort of content that you might have missed, like a session through the summer, you can click on there, and it is under our recorded PL. Also, I've linked where Sarah's sliding down the little rainbow here into our summer PL schedule, and that will just give you some upcoming classes. But again, we link all of our recorded sessions on that schedule. So if you miss one, you can always go back there and find a session. So anything else you want to add, Sarah?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, we are just getting right to work today. So we are going to, Sarah's going to start. Are you starting us off? Yeah, so I'm going to switch screen. She's going to share with groups and get started there. Okay, switching over.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about groups this morning. And groups are different than courses, and we're going to kind of talk about those similarities and differences here in just a second. But groups are really ideal for specifically your elementary, your grade level groups. So if you're a third grade teacher, and we're going to talk about some organizational things later as we kind of go through. But if you are an elementary third grade teacher, you may want to create a third grade group. So all of your teammates can be a member in that group and have the ability to kind of share templates and resources. Having this new curriculum next year, you will probably be finding some resources kind of on your own a little bit more than maybe this year. So that would be a great place to store all of those things and have that common space for it. For secondary, this would be a great content for our content areas. So you may want to create like a language arts group or a science group, social studies group, and have all of your content there. And again, we're going to show you some organizational ideas at the end of this session. So we're kind of breaking it up into 3 different sections here. So in that third section, we're going to talk about some different organizational ways that you can organize those grade level and then content area groups. And again, sharing out templates, resources, and links with your co-teachers. This is also great for extracurricular clubs, sports, or organizations. So anything outside of the classroom, because groups are not rostered through PowerSchool SIS. This is great for some of those outside of the classroom things. Even if you want to have a special, you've got a group of kids who come see you during lunch, you've got a lunch bunch going on or something like that. You could always have a group created for those students. Any group, I will just point this out, any group that a student is added to, their parents will automatically be added as well. So their parents kind of follow their students, so they receive the same information that their student would receive if in a group or a course. This also would be great for any staff group. So if your building coach or your principal would make a staff group to share out just staff information and updates and calendar events, things like that. So really, these are kind of the focus of our groups today. So just to kind of look at the differences between groups and courses, they have a lot of similarities, but they have a few differences as well. So in our course, that's what you all have already created being in Schoology. You've created a course, you've created that sandbox course. You will have courses rostered to you, so students will be rostered automatically come end of July, beginning of August with your students for next year based upon their course schedule. So you'll have all of those rostered to you. But the different, and like I said, groups are not created that way. So this would be either by an invite or a manual ad, and we'll show you how to do that, that students would be added to a group as opposed to a course. In courses, you can create and grade assignments and assessments, but in groups, you can create templates. And so as a team, you could almost create an assignment or an assessment template, share it out with your group, and then each of the group members would be able to take that assignment or assessment and then share it with their class as needed, okay? Just like in courses, you can create folders and pages, add links, add files. So all of those things are the same. It's just a little bit of a difference with the rostering and the creation of those assignments and assessments. Again, one great thing is that you can add that calendar option to kind of keep your team on track. So if you have a content area group or a grade level group, once you get into your curriculum and kind of set parameters for how long you want to spend on a certain topic or a unit, you can plug that into your computer or into your group calendar. And so anytime you're in that group, you'll see those calendar options with like the start date and end date of your unit plan. So that would be a great tool to use just to keep your group on track, so you don't have to worry about those paper copies of your calendars, having to take those back and forth to your common planning or collaboration times. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at one of our groups. Most of you have already probably joined our integrated group. We're going to go ahead and jump in. You're welcome to join me kind of looking through things as we go, or you can just sit back and watch kind of how I create resources and kind of walk through it that way. So again, you can join fwcs.schoology.com. That's where you'll always go to have access to your Schoology page. If you haven't already joined, you'll use your Google email to log in. So you'll do that each time you log in to Schoology. I do have this access code here, and I'll show it on my screen as well once I get over to our integrated site, and I can walk you through how to join that group if you haven't already. So if you haven't, if you just want to put in the chat real quick, that way I know if I need to show it or not. So I can show you how to do that if need be. Okay. So I'm going to hop over here to our integrated group. So in our integrated group, and again, you just get there by going up to groups, and then you select that group in your group settings. It looks like I don't see anything popping up in the chat, so it looks like everybody should be in this group. So updates is here at the top. So you should probably see some updates from me that I've just added about the scope and sequence. And while we're here, I'll show you how to access those. For elementary and secondary is now posted today as well. So the updates are the first thing that you will see. Notice along the side that calendar that I spoke about. So I can see some upcoming things that I have going on that has been added to this integrated group, just as far as our some PLs and things like that we have. Okay. On the left-hand side, there's also kind of a toolbar here that will take you through some different things within this group. You may not see everything that I see just because I'm an admin on this group, but we're going to go ahead and look in our resources today. And this is where you're going to add in a group most of your content. So I'm going to go over to resources. And you can see some resources that we already have added. The Schoology resources and the LMS consistency templates, these are both things that are probably familiar to you if you've had any of our other trainings. We've already gone into some of those templates right there. But here is our scope and sequence. So if you're interested in looking at our scope and sequences, we recently just added these for both elementary and secondary. So the scope and sequence is there at the top. And then it's divided out by elementary, secondary, and applied skills. I'll go ahead and click on elementary real quick just to kind of show you the layout. So it's laid out by K2 through 5. And then there's the feedback option. That will just take you to a Google form to give feedback. And then the secondary is laid out by ELA and math. And then it's broken down into grade levels, for ELA, and then content areas for math. So Algebra 1, 6th grade math, etc. Okay, so I just wanted to point those out while we were here today. So you knew where to find those if you were interested in taking a look at those and then giving your feedback. So what you'll notice here is that both of these or all of these are folders. And so this is a great way to kind of organize your group is by using those folders. So in our courses, at the top of the page is that add materials button. However, in groups, it's adding a resource. So we're not adding materials by, creating assignments and assessments. We're just adding resources for members of our group to use. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. And this should again look familiar to you. This looks just like or very similar to the drop-down menu for our resources on our courses. So again, I could add a folder here if I'd like to add a new folder to this course or this group, excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and click Add Folder. And we're just going to add some, we're going to create a math folder today. Okay, so I'm just going to type in math. I'm going to change my color on it just so it stands out. Actually, I'll choose something that's not already there. I don't think we have a pink folder. You can always type in a description of what's in this folder and then click Create. Okay, so it automatically adds down at the bottom of my page. Now I can always move these folders anywhere that I want to just by clicking and dragging. I think I could do that on groups, or do I need to go over and sort them? Oh, I think I got to sort them. So over here on options is where you can reorder your collection. So if I click reorder, now I'm able to move those around. Sorry, courses, you can easily move them. Our groups, you got to go into that options menu and move things around that way. Okay. So once I've created this folder, I can go into my folder and now I can begin to add in my content. So again, and Shannon is going to show us this a little bit later, but within that math folder, I can add additional folders. So maybe I want to add a Unit 1 folder so we can keep our content and our resources kind of organized and structured. So I'm going to click Create. And then I can continue to build out folders this way or add in other resources or templates. So here's where I can add my assignment or my assessment template. And we will get more into those when we work specifically on those assignment and assessment PLs for you. I can add files and links. I could add a discussion template. So if I need to have a discussion template with my team about how we want to teach something or what tools we want to use, what resources we want to use, I can do that here. So if we aren't meeting until next Tuesday, but I have a question for my team, I could always post that in a discussion template here, as opposed to sending everybody an email or something like that. Here's where I can add in a page. So just like on our courses, if I click Add a Page, it's going to allow me to have that page pop up, and it will show, just like it does in courses, all of the tools at the top. So I can add links from here, as well as any content from a picture or from my Google Drive or my OneDrive, or even a YouTube video that I want to add to our group for my group members to use. Okay. Just remember, when you are pulling things from your Google Drive or your OneDrive, these are just like in a view only resource for your students. So this would be, an interactive slide deck, or, perhaps an article that you have, created and put into slides, or something that's more just view only and for a resource, as opposed to an assignment where students are interacting and typing or creating. So that would need to be done in an assignment, as opposed to just pulling something from your Google Drive as a resource or a tool. Okay, so you would just click Submit after you add anything to your pages. And that just gives you the option to kind of build, again, those pages like you would in courses. So here's where you can also add in rubrics, add question banks. So there's a lot of options for just adding those templates and creating those resources that you can't do in courses. So until Shannon and I really started talking about this PL, I was kind of pro use a course for my grade level or for my, sharing that out with my teammates. But I've kind of changed my thinking a little bit just because I like so much the option of being able to add those templates to things. And, to just be able to share out resources and tools without having to create, multiple copies and, worry about being able to grade something or having something come back to me that's not my students. And so this is a great way to do that. Because with courses, we're not 100% sure yet just because we don't have students rostered. So it's hard to really tell what it's going to look like and how it's actually going to work by pulling in some of our Google Drive resources. I know that with, myself being in this position, a lot of teachers added me this year, not a lot, but a couple of teachers added me as a co-teacher on their Power School just because we were doing some work with them earlier in the year. And so I would be getting some of that student content. I don't want Shannon to receive all of my students' work into her Google Drive. And so using this group is a great way to kind of stop that because it's not pulling things. It's pulling things from your drive, but it's creating it in a way that it will almost like make a copy to be yours that you can then share out with your class as opposed to just having that template already kind of ready to go. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. Sometimes I don't always know, that I'm conveying the message that I want to. So hopefully that makes sense. But I would really highly recommend using groups for your content areas or for your grade level. So let's take a look real quick at just how to add members. So I'm going to go again off to the left-hand side here to this members button. And this shows all of the members in our integrated group. So the badges are the people who have those admin rights. So in order for your team members to be able to add content to your group, everyone is going to need to be an admin. So my recommendation would be that one person creates that group, adds in your members, and makes them all admin. And you simply do that just by clicking this little gear and you make them an admin. So that's super simple to do when you're adding those members and creating those groups. Okay. All right. Any questions about this so far? I think we're going to kind of switch roles here. Shannon's going to take over and show you some of our resources. This is a great feature here, and I'm excited for you to learn a little bit more about this. But just any questions about groups before we move on? We're good? Okay, awesome. Then I will stop sharing so you can do yours.
Okay, so I'm going to jump right in here and start talking about the resources that Sarah was showing you a little bit. And I think once you see some of the examples we'll give, it kind of drive home why we are promoting the use of groups and resources. So let me get to I have my Schoology open, but I must have closed it out. Okay, get there real quick. Okay. So when you think about resources, you can think about resources as like a virtual filing cabinet for all the documents, folders, tools, and things that you use right within Schoology. So I kind of think of it as like a Schoology drive, like things specific almost that I want to help me organize my content pages for students or for the teachers that I'm working with. That's what the Schoology resources is. But there's a couple different levels to those resources. So we're going to talk about each of them here. So there's going to be personal resources, public resources, and then our group resources. So when I log into my Schoology account here, you can see that I'm going to go ahead and up at the top, I'm just going to start by selecting the resources tab. When I select the resources tab, along the left-hand side are those three groups that I talked about, the personal, public, and group resources. The personal resources is the default place that you will land. And this is a place where you can organize content of things that I kind of consider it things that I want to either save so I can use in another place in Schoology or things that I want to reuse again. So you see these little like moving boxes, file cabinets here up in the corner. And those are your collections. So you've got a home collection that by default, anything you add to your resources can save there. But I've got a couple different templates here, collections that I've created to help me organize my material. So I've got some templates that I've made of the way I want to set up my week, and I'll show you how I do that in a second. But up at the top where that little file cabinet is, you can type in the name of your collection. So if I wanted to put in here like ELA resources, I could then just create that collection. And now you can see over on the left-hand side, all of the different places that I can now store my resources. So let me show you, you can use the button that Sarah just showed here to add resources. I'm going to say more realistic for me is when I'm in my course creating things for my students. So I'm going to go to my kindergarten page here, and I've got a folder here of my weekly structure. So if I click on August 27th through August 31st, and I click on Monday, you can see I have my daily agenda. I've got this workstation template that every week I'm going to come in here and put my Seesaw links, my Pear Deck activities, and the things I want students to do for word work. Then I've got my math content I'm going to post. I've got an assignment that I want to give students, and then a couple other things that I have down here that I think were just from other PLs. But say this is the template, like every single day, this is the structure of my page, and I don't want to recreate it every day. I just want to go in, pull down this template on every Monday and have it ready to use. So I think I'm going to go back one level here, and I've got my Monday there. Now this gear over here in the right-hand corner that Sarah has showed a couple of different times, if I click on that little gear, there's going to be this option that says Save to Resources. So now when I click that option, I'm going to get all of the collections that I named up here. I can click on the drop down and I can say, here's my, these are my home or my personal collections come up first. So I'm going to put this in my weekly structures folder. And I don't have any individual folders there, but I'm just going to save it. Okay. And now when it say I wanted to come and add more materials to, I'm going to add Monday, I'm going to add a folder in here. Okay. I've got my practice folder down here, and now I want to add content to this practice folder, and I want to use the exact template that I just saved to my resources. I don't have to go in and recreate that structure. When I have add materials now, I can now choose import from resources. So when I come back again, I'm going to go right to here's all of my weekly structures that I created. And now I'm going to come down to where that Monday folder is that I just saved. And when I choose import it there. Now that Monday folder that I created before is down there on my page, and all I would have to go in and do is change out my links or change out any personalized content for that day. I don't have to recreate the wheel of creating the template. So that's just a great way to share my things with myself. Now say I am on a team of people and we are creating this. I'm responsible for creating all the links for Monday, and Sarah's responsible for creating all of the links for Tuesday. If I come up to this page and I save that collection again, I can save to my resources. But now I could say, instead of going to my home collection, you can see I have group resources, which I'll get to in a second. But I could say, okay, here's my, I made a group for us, maybe at the bottom, but I can choose my grade level team that I'm working on, and I could put it in that group so that now all of us would have access to my weekly structure or my group. They can take and use that template with their students as well by importing the resources. And now we don't have to each do the work. So it's a time-saving tool for both of us. And I don't have to email her. I don't have to alert her. She can just go into her resources and see that as well. So those are some ways that you can use your personal resources. So you can save templates. You can save things like I've got some math and practice materials to say there's a 10-frame lesson that I'm going to have students use repeatedly. I'm just going to save it in my math resources, and every time I need it, I can just pull it down and I can move it or copy it or add it somewhere to my course right from the resource section as well. Okay? So those are some ways that you can use your personal resources. The next tab below personal resources is public resources. So, if you're an elementary person, you're familiar with like the community library on Seesaw, where people share things that they think everyone, whoever uses Seesaw, wants to use. That's sort of what this does for Schoology. So if you have content that you think is really great that others in the Schoology community might like, you can save it and share it to public resources. But likewise, you can also search. So say I'm doing a lesson on, let's see, subtraction. Okay, I can then customize my search here, and I can say, okay, I want to look in math, and I'm going to click on a grade level, second grade, and I can filter those kinds of things out. So I can say, oh, here's a YouTube number rock subtraction wraps. Okay, that looks really great. It's got 1 5-star rating. Definitely check these resources out. But if I click on the plus button, it's saving it. It automatically defaults to your downloads in your resource files, but I'm going to say, nope, I want this to go to my math and practice materials. I can move it here. And now it moves that resource from the public section over to my personal file cabinet, where I've got now this YouTube number rock subtraction wrap video that I would definitely watch before I showed my students. And I can put that right on my course or on my page. So what's just nice about that is that if you are looking for some material, you don't necessarily have to recreate the wheel to find it. There might be something out there that someone's already created and put in Schoology for you to use. I usually default by highest rated, and then you can also choose the different types of things you want to find. So if you're looking for a link or a discussion, you can always look for that by the type of content that you're looking for. So kind of play around with the search filters, but just know that that public resource is there for you to find things. Okay. Lastly, we're going to talk about group resources. And this is what Sarah was talking about when she was talking about setting up a group, is that a lot of teachers this year either shared a page so that they could have common places for student work or for student activities that they wanted to do, and then they would just copy it to their page, which, like Sarah said, is great, except for if I come down here, you can kind of see there was just a lot of problems of people filling up Google Drives with other students' work, and then they might delete that work because it's not their students, but it deletes everywhere. There's also some student privacy issues that might occur if you have access to a student's work and if you're not the grade level teacher or you're not supposed to have access to some sensitive content. So we kind of advise against sharing pages completely unless there's a real need to do that. So we find that creating a group and sharing resources within that group is probably the best way to avoid that kind of bulky content in your drive, and then eliminating any privacy concerns. So if I click on my groups, I made one yesterday for Sarah and myself to kind of model some of our schools that I've worked with on kind of level 201. You'll find the more groups you get in, harder to find them. So you can reorganize your groups so that the ones you use are up on the top. I think I named that FWCS Integrated Third Grade, but there it is, Third Grade Team Integrated School. Okay, let me get it here for you. Yeah, I was thinking it was FWCS first, not Third Grade Team. I just forgot what I named it. Okay, so now if I was a principal or a coach at a school, what I would probably do is create a group for each of my grade level teams. So kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And then from there, this is where I would ask them to store any resources that are for the common good of the group. What this will allow is, one, I don't have to be a member of Sarah's class to see what she's doing with her students or grab and take things that she's doing. And as a coach or a principal, I could go in and kind of see what all of the resources of my teachers are using that week without having to individually click on all of their classes. And also I can contribute. So if I am a coach and I'm like, hey guys, I can create a quick formative assessment for you to all to use, I will put it in our resources file so you guys can come in there and grab it. So this is just a great sharing place for all of the things that you're creating. And you can do it two ways. You can do it the way Sarah showed at the beginning by just clicking on resources. And you can see I kind of have some folders I already created with back to school resources, the first week of school, and then some templates that we would be making together. I can click on my week of August 23rd and click on Monday and say, okay, I've got a resource that I want to add for all of the teachers to grab. So I can add a page and say, okay, here is our workstation choice board. And then when I come down here, I can just insert that choice board from our Google Drive. And again, this is not something that students will have to give feedback on. This is going to be a view-only version of it. Otherwise, I would use an assignment. But they will be able to click all the links. They will be able to go to other locations or do something on a seesaw choice board example, and I'll just import and embed. And again, I could give other directions or things here, but once I submit it, now this workstation choice board is here. So I created Monday. All Sarah has to do is come to our week of August 23rd through the 27th, click the gear, and she can add it to her own course. So it saves her the time of having to go through and create that or find where I sent her content. Everything that I'm contributing for Monday is on that page for her to share. So it just really helps streamline how you share content with one another. And again, like I said, I can go in and add it directly by choosing add resources. But say I'm like, well, I'm going to put this on my team's page or my classroom's page anyway. I could start at the course level. And then once I create it in my own course, I can then add it up into my resources again by using the gear at the top and saving it to my resources. You will find that like if you are working in your practice page for the summer, and you can save all of your course to your resources. So this is kind of something to think about at the end of the year too. When you're done, your entire course, everything that you've done can save as a resource. So the next year you could essentially come in and say, add this resource to my course and have everything structured for you that you would just go in and edit. So using the resources is really going to help become a commonplace for you to find content. Right? So that would be the resources. Okay, let me go back to my slides, make sure I hit everything that I was going to hit there. Any questions, Sarah, or things that we need to talk about? Okay. Okay, so sharing resources is kind of, so we've got personal, that's just you, no one can see them. Public, find and save resources, and then groups to share with your friends. Okay. Okay, so Sarah and I are going to tag team this last section together to just kind of drive home some of the things we talked about. We should have said at the beginning, this one was probably going to be slightly shorter than an hour unless we have questions. But groups of resources together, we feel like is probably a really powerful way to use Schoology, especially when you're talking about PLCs with other teachers and extracurricular groups. So again, just why to use that grade level content area group. One, it's the easiest way to share resources with your teammates. You can save your drive, and then it's just that common place for group members to find content, especially those people who are members of multiple groups. So your special ed teachers, your ELL teachers who might need access to all grade level content areas, they can come to that group and find that place. So if this is sounding like something that you want to do, if you're a school building leader or you're just a member of your grade level team, this would be something to start talking about with your teammates and say like, hey, let's create a group. So that's the first step, is creating your group. And it's really easy to do. So if you go back to your groups tab, just like you made a My Course, if you click up on My Groups at the top right-hand corner, you will just create that group using the blue button. And you will name it. You can give it a description, but just kind of down here at the privacy level, keep in mind, I would probably just keep that up. The people in my group can access it. And then you can choose invite only. I would not keep it open, or you can allow requests if you want, but I'm assuming it's probably going to be people just in your building. And then a category, and I just choose faculty group usually, and then you click create. And then once you're in your group, like Sarah showed you, that's where you can begin to differentiate the type of people that are in your group. So you can add your members, and you can choose that you can make them admins or not. So if it is somebody who really just needs to see your group and they're not going to be contributing anything, you don't need to make them an admin. They'll just have kind of view only rights like your students would. Okay. And then again, just sort of think through how you're going to organize it. So I would say I would start by clicking on your resources, and this might be something you do in a first collab with your team. And if you want to ask your coordinator to help you get these set up for your school or your group, or walk you through as a team, we'd be happy to do that, or have them watch this recording. Those are some things to do, but I would just start by adding some folders of things that you think would be helpful to organize your content, because this is going to be the place that you come back to, and you can customize it. You just want to make it as user friendly for you all as you can. So what is the best way to do that? Is that going to be by week? Is that going to be by content area? So start with your main folder structure, and then set up some guidelines maybe for how you want to contribute content as well. Okay. I think that's really the content we had to share. I can't think of anything else there unless you have something else that you want to put out there. Oh, yes. Okay. Just real quick, Sarah had made, since we kind of were a little bit heavy there on the elementary focus, Sarah does have a, you just called it science, not science 912, correct?
Yeah.
You'll see right now, I have a lot of groups, because these are the curriculum groups that you will eventually see based on your content areas. So coming your way soon, probably not as many, hopefully. But here's just an organization example for secondary. So you don't have necessarily a grade level team, but if you are a science lead or the coach, and you want all of your science teachers to contribute to the same folder, you can make a science group at Northside and have all of your science teachers in this group, and then just start your folder at the course level. And so once you have a biology section, now you could go in and you can start putting things in by unit that teachers are doing, or however they're organizing their science content. For biology, they could start to put things in there, what makes sense to you. But we just wanted to kind of show you that you can go by grade level the way we showed you, but this is also a way that if the principal or at an elementary level wanted to have more of a, wanted to give teachers access to other grade level content. So say you did want to see more vertical articulation with the standards, I could have a Glenwood Park group, and then I could put these folders as kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and then start to add content in as well that way. It just sort of comes down to how much you want to control their group sharing that way. Keep in mind, the more admins you have, the more, I don't want to say risk, but things can happen. The more people you have to give control. So I would probably be a little weary to say give everybody at Northside admin rights to one group, just for out of pure fear. But Sarah, maybe you would think differently. Okay, she's not listening. So that just means she agrees with me by default. Okay.
100%.
Okay. All right. So we are hoping that after watching this today, you can kind of see the power of using the groups and resources functions of Schoology, and that you can kind of consider how you might start to use these, even if you're not going to go the group level with your teammates, at least for yourself. I think for the template alone as a time saver would be well worth it to me to keep adding things to my own personal resources, so that I always have those able to be reused, and I can modify as well. Okay, so if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, you're welcome to do that at this point. If you want to keep putting in the chat, you can, but I'm happy we'll stick around for a while to answer any questions that you might have. I'm going to put the exit slip for this session here in the chat. So we are keeping track of attendance by this exit slip. And we've got some badges for the summer, but also next school year, we'll be introducing some new badges for technology skills. So if you are wanting to have some kind of recognition for the technology work you're doing, we think you're amazing for attending these in the summer, then please fill out that exit slip as well. I guess one thing, Sarah, we didn't talk too much about is if you are using this for a, the football team needs a group. That is something that you and your kids might not be checking their email over the summer. That's probably where you're going to use the access code a little bit more, is that you could hand out a flyer with that at the beginning of football practice and say, hey, everybody needs to join this group because from now on, I'm going to put all the announcements for our team up on this group. So just utilizing that access code is helpful to students. And it's also nice in groups that once you're done, you can inactivate the group. So if football season is over and you want to start fresh the next year, you could do that.
And I would just keep in mind that students will not be rostered to Schoology until later in July. So at this point, you can start creating, content on a group. If you're doing the spell bowl at elementary, or you are, working on you're an assistant coach on the football team, and your job is to create the Schoology page. You can go ahead and start building those out, but students won't be rostered or added or be able to be added until the end of July, until all of that movement is moved over from PowerSchool to Schoology. So I would just kind of keep that in mind, but you can start building your content just like you're building your content for your course in your sandbox. You can go ahead and create those groups, start building it out, and then add in your students once they are rostered over to Schoology.
Oh, yes, the migration, we didn't talk about that. I mentioned that I would. So one of the things people asked about is PowerSchool Learning will be open for the end of, throughout the school year, that you go over and pull over content one by one. So I could look the first week of school and see like, hey, these are things that I want to use. I can copy and paste or find that document in my Google Drive to move over. There is a migration happening as we speak, I think. I'm not sure, haven't seen it for sure yet, but in our resources, you will start to see there should be a collection that will appear that says PowerSchool Learning. Do you know exactly what it's titled, Sarah? Okay, so there will be some resource here that will have all of your PowerSchool resources moved over. That sounds like really great and awesome, but I know Eric mentioned in the comment, just keep in mind that everything that you created, it's not necessarily going to appear in a nice format that's easy to find and put right directly on your page. There may be resources that transfer really nicely and you can just use that gear and put it on your page. But it might take some hunting to find exactly what you're looking for. So once yours moves over, and it's going to be a process because there's a lot of us and a lot of content in our district, once you start to see that appear, then you will be able to decide whether you want to keep that collection or you just want to keep going back to PowerSchool Learning and grabbing things as you go. Me personally, that's probably what I'm going to do, is I'm probably going to look at what my PowerSchool Learning folder looks like, decide if it is worth going through and finding all the tools I want and really evaluating what they look like in Schoology, of whether I'm going to continue to use them. So, but just so you know, you will start to see a folder here in my resources. And so there might be things that you can grab and use directly in Schoology, and you wouldn't have to go back to PowerSchool Learning and copy and paste. Just hard to really promote it too much right now because I haven't seen it and can't explain it super well yet. But once that's out, we'll send a little how-to video about how that looks and how that works, so you can make that choice for how you want to utilize it.
Sorry, I was trying to get to the chat. There were kind of about 3 or 4 that came in all at the same time. For the SPED resource room elementary, we would use groups to name our group and manually add the students. Correct. I would, Natalie, I would create a course for your SPED kids, because you're probably going to want to be able to assign things to them. So I would only use groups for those extracurricular activities for students, because you won't be able to create assignments or grade things or get things back from them unless it's in a course. So for your SPED resource room for elementary, I would create a course. And Shannon's kind of showing that over here on the side. I would create a course, and then you will manually add your students to that course. I hope that answers that.
And we talked about closer to school, when students get rostered, hosting a special PL for SPED or other classrooms that might not have the same kinds of rosters. So be on the lookout in July, kind of the July PL schedule will come out, and we'll hopefully have that on there.
We wanted to wait until for those ones for like SPED and EOL and until we had students rostered. so that we could actually show you how to move your students and add your students and things like that. So yeah, we are waiting a little bit later on those our special friends that don't fall in that, general classroom category to do some specific PLs. Also for related arts, because you guys are a little bit different as well, and just showing you how to have groups together. So we will continue Schoology. We're going to keep on going for quite some time. So be on the lookout for more trainings and sessions on that.
All right. Well, thank you very much again. And we'll stick around for a few more minutes. If you want to add something privately, you can. If not, enjoy the beautiful day. And we will see you hopefully again soon for some more of our sessions.